one question that hasn't been answered is this. Whose idea was it to cut the 45p rate of tax in the first place? So on Sunday, Truss was clear it wasn't her.
Did you discuss scrapping the top rate with your whole cabinet?
No. No, we didn't. It was a decision that the Chancellor made.
It was a decision that the Chancellor made. I should say, apparently it's quite normal not to tell the whole cabinet when it's this surprise announcement in the budget, because otherwise it's going to leak. But it was clear she didn't say me and Kwasi Kwarteng decided it. She said Kwarteng decided it. However, by this morning, Kwarteng was saying that Truss agreed to the cuts. This is the Chancellor on BBC Radio 4's Today programme.
The Prime Minister said yesterday it was a decision the Chancellor made to abolish the 45p rate. Does she mean it was your decision and not hers?
Well, what she meant, of course, was that historically in this country, the Chancellor of the Exchequer is responsible for public finance.
Did she agree to the policy before you announced it?
Every budget is essentially done in the name of the Chancellor of the Exchequer.
Of course, but did she agree to it before she...
And I take full responsibility for that.
Did the Prime Minister agree to the policy before you announced it?
Of course we agree. We agree on all
I'm not asking you whether you now agree. I'm asking you, did you get her backing for the 45p tax?
Of course. We work as part of the same government.
There was then an interesting twist. Just before Kwarteng went on Radio 4, The Guardian's Pippa Crarat tweeted this. Tory insiders claim that it was, in fact, Treasury Chief Secretary Chris Philp who had the idea to cut the 45p tax rate, presenting Truss and Kwarteng with a paper on it during leadership campaign. And then soon Chris Philp, rather than Truss or Kwarteng, became the story. Here he is on Sky News.
Was it your idea?
I would not describe it as my idea, no. But we discussed lots of ideas. I discussed those ideas. I was asked to analyse different ideas. We discussed dozens of different things. They were discussed with me, with lots and lots of other people, members of Parliament and other people as well. We put together the growth plan, which will get our economy growing. It will see wages rising, and it will see a sustainable tax base developed.
I've allowed you to say that, Mr. Philp. Did you present
public services? Well, it's an important point.
Did you present Ms. Truss and Mr. Kwarteng with a paper suggesting that this is what would happen if there was a cut from 45p to 40p?
OK, Kay, I did not produce a paper specifically on this measure. We discussed lots and lots of different ideas. Kay, I think I've said as much as I want to say about this. Lots and lots of different ideas were discussed
I'm sure that's
by lots
the
and lots of
case,
different
but
people.
Nevertheless, it's my job to press you on it. And my question is, as part of a paper, as part of a body of work that was given to them during the election campaign, did you suggest in writing that this could be a good idea?
I'm not going to go any further into private discussions that were held over the summer. I've said as much as I want to say about this. You know, there were widespread discussions involving me, involving other people, involving dozens of different ideas, and, you know, decisions ultimately get made by the Chancellor and by the Prime Minister, listening to a lot of different people.
It was your idea, wasn't it?
Aaron, it's quite a pathetic scene, really, isn't it? You've got the three most important people when it comes to the British economy. So the Prime Minister, who makes the final decisions, the Chancellor, who is the top job in the Treasury, and then the Chief Secretary to the Treasury, who is, the second top job in the Treasury. And they're all pointing fingers at each other saying, oh, no, it was his idea. No, it was his idea. No, it was her idea. Like, it's pathetic, isn't it?
4 words, Michael. Rats in a sack. This is, again, it's really unusual, right? You're the Chancellor of the Exchequer and you're blaming something on somebody who is actually fundamentally, yes, they're second in charge of the Treasury, but fundamentally a very junior person in any government. They're not going to be a household name, Chris Philp. And I wonder, look, yes, it's the job of people like him to give you a suite of policy proposals. That's what you do in leadership elections. And I'm sure if you had a leadership election in Labour with a left-wing candidate, people should absolutely engage in blue sky thinking. But the whole point of being a politician is you choose which ones you think are best suited to address certain problems and ones which won't make you deeply unpopular. And in the case of Liz Truss and Kwasi Kwarteng, things that won't, literally collapse British pension funds within 48 hours of being released to the wider public. So the buck has to stop there. And I really do believe that. And by the way, I said that continuously about Labour with Jeremy Corbyn at the helm. Ultimately, mistakes made by people beneath him, ultimately they have to reside with him. None of those mistakes were in any way reminiscent of what we're presently seeing. And again, it does just feel fundamentally different, the usual kind of scandals, because of course we've had bad budgets before. This wasn't a budget, it was a mini budget, hence we didn't get the OBR. But we've had bad budgets before. There was the pasty tax from George Osborne. You had Philip Hammond, remember him? Have to row back on certain promises in the budget within a few days, I think, maybe even a week. McDonnell as his opposite number. So you do get these kind of big set pieces from the Chancellor, and sometimes things go badly wrong. But this is a whole other level. We've never seen a response like this before. And I think the fact they are pointing fingers at Chris Phelps betokens just how significant it is this time.
And do you think anyone's going to have to fall on their sword? Do you think Liz Truss is going to get ousted before a general election? Will she sack Kwasi Kwarteng? Will they both just say it was Chris Phelps' fault and kick him out of the job?
Your guess is as good as mine, Michael. I mean, political clairvoyance is always a fool's errand, but I think particularly if, we're not Tory pundits, we're not inside with the 1922 committee. We don't go drinking with Harry Cole and the assorted lobby journalists who those people have in their back pocket. We can make an educated guess, which is at present, yes. I mean, the Tories would collapse in a general election if they were led by Liz Truss. What I find really interesting is, of course, the Tories have this awesome machine when it comes to general elections. Awesome machine. They hire world-class people, the best of the best, often very unlike Labour, right? Whether that's with digital campaigns, whether it's with public speaking, everything you can imagine. Fundraising, they get the best of the best of the best. And I can see how Linton Crosby goes into a general election, of course, helps bring that polling lead Labour presently have down. He can eat into it. But when you're looking at polling leads right now of 25 with 2 pollsters today, I believe, 33 recently with YouGov, 20 to 35 is a pretty big bridge to gap. So I would be very worried if I was a Conservative MP. The best bet is Rishi Sunak, always was, if you're trying to play it safe. I never thought they would win a general election with Sunak because I think he's been too closely tied and implicated in with Boris Johnson's failures. And of course, until quite recently, the big story was Cakegate, and he was implicated in that, although I think that was somewhat overstated. I think you agree on that as well, Michael. But Sunak was their best bet. And if you wanted to take a punt on somebody else, it was probably the Defence Secretary or Penny Mordaunt. But Sunak was the safe bet. That's what Tory MPs thought. That's why the majority of them went with him. And I think they probably still feel the same, if not more so. And so given that he commanded a majority of his colleagues in Parliament before all this happened, if you had to sort of put a name in the hat and say this will be an interim Prime Minister who can steady the ship, calm the markets, satisfy the Tory base, has national name recognition, can actually at least put tiptoes onto Keir Starmer's territory in the centre. I mean, I don't think he can. I think that the Tories as a party are a right-wing basket case. But let's just play that sort of rhetorical game that the media would mobilise, were that to be the kind of competition, Sunak versus Starmer. You can see how they avoid complete catastrophe. And right now, I think that's what they should be aiming for. 2 years away, anything can change, of course. But first principle here, first step would be, how do we ensure we don't see something like a 1997 defeat? Because, Michael, in 1997, Labour only beat the Tories by, I think, 11, 12 points in the polls. Well, now we're looking at polling leads of 20, 33. So it would be something far beyond what Labour enjoyed in 1997, without seats from Scotland, by the way. That tells you the extent of the problem in England for the Conservative Party before mortgage rates go up, before the winters even arrived. So if they were smart, they would get rid of them. But then if they were smart, Truss wouldn't have made the final 2 in the first place. So who knows?
Yeah, I don't think they can go into the next general election with both of them, because obviously I'm talking about Kwarteng and Truss now. I think Philps obviously in irrelevance. I think if they sack him, it will just make them look even more pathetic. But I don't think they can go into an election with both of them, because people remember the fact that they announced this budget and then 3 days later, their mortgages got way more expensive. I just don't see how you can recover from that. And I think, as you say, neither of us are Conservative commentators. We don't have connections in the Tory party, but from what I've read, and it also makes a lot of sense, if there was to be a challenge to Liz Truss, it would only happen once Conservative MPs had worked out how to get 2 people on a shortlist and then for one of them to drop out, a bit like Andrea Leadsom did when she was against Theresa May, because they don't want to put this back to the members. They want the next person to be anointed very quickly, because obviously the public aren't going to take kindly to another 3-month leadership contest where another idiot gets elected.